What's up, everybody? It's Disthunder, and today we're going to take a look at the Mezco Toys 112 Collective Dick Tracy vs. Flattop box set. As I'm working on this review, I handed over a good chunk of change to Mezco for the blank exclusive figure that just dropped earlier this month. And so it appears from all outward appearances that the Mezco Dick Tracy line is going to be hardly a one-off, and we're going to have at least several villains, and I don't know, hopefully maybe a Sam Ketchum or something in the future. But that makes this two-pack the cornerstone of this collection. It wasn't particularly a bad thing to have it start off with Prune Face just because of timing, but now it feels like this is really a subset that has begun in earnest. I've talked a little bit about Dick Tracy's history in the past, like when we talked about Prune Face, so I'll just kind of do a quick summary here. Created in the early 1930s by Chester Gould, I think 31 or 32 is the first publication year. He is a syndicated comic strip character, got his start in the Chicago Tribune, and then really spread like wildfire throughout the United States and presumably the world shortly thereafter at the height of the Great Depression. In a lot of ways, Dick Tracy is kind of the prototypical pop culture icon, because his popularity spawned novelizations and collectibles and merchandise and toys and things in a way that was really pretty much unheard of before him in the 30s, especially again at the height of the Great Depression. But I think a lot of that has to do with him being a very well-realized character in a relatively short format, and Gould's uses of iconic villains loosely based on actual real-life villains, like, for example, Flattop, who we'll also be talking about today, was widely believed to have been based on Pretty Boy Floyd. It's never really been confirmed, but there's a moment in one of the strips where they reference the Kansas City Massacre, which was a real-life event that happened in, I think, 33, and Pretty Boy Floyd was supposedly a part of that. Hell, I guess that means it's possible that Pretty Boy Floyd and Flattop might have been contemporaries in the Dick Tracy universe. To that end, I think Flattop makes his first appearance in 1944, and he is presented basically as a high-end hitman, taking a fee of around $5,000 to eliminate Dick Tracy for the mob. Funny enough, he would have probably pulled the job off had he not gotten a little greedy and realized that if they're willing to pay him $5,000, they'd probably pay him 5 times that or 10 times that, and giving Tracy the opportunity to escape. As I've been talking, I've been showing off just some pictures of Dick Tracy doing some investigating, and that's actually probably not a bad place to start with his accessories. First being the flashlight he's holding, which is a very underrated accessory, in my opinion. And of course, he is adorned by his trademark yellow hat and yellow trench coat, which, if you're my age or a little older, you may recall the Playmates figures committed the cardinal sin of not giving the man his trench coat when those figures came out, which is something that has bothered me not insignificantly over the last, 30 years. And here is Flattop with his Colt 1911, probably the best 1911 Mezco's done so far, actually, and his trademark purple suit with bow tie. He also has the most excellent violin case, which includes his M1921A Thompson broken down for storage and for portability. I talked about this weapon in some detail on my Instagram page. I know it's losing followers, but it's still probably the best place to find me if you're wondering. And other than having the wrong rear sight, it should be the boxy Lyman sight with the ladder sight in it instead of the sight protector peep sight that the M1 has. This is absolutely one of the coolest weapon accessories any figure has ever received. The trademark violin case for the Tommy gun is not just a Hollywood invention, though. It is based in reality, with even the FBI's own Thompsons coming to them in these nice velour and leather, almost suitcase-looking cases to contain all the magazines and the pieces. As you would expect, you can then assemble the Thompson and put the 50-round drum mag in it, and it looks just like this. But as an added bonus feature, you can actually leave the buttstock off of the weapon, which would leave it in its trench broom configuration, which is a nice touch, which is, just kind of a nice happenstance by having it being able to be broken down. The drum mags and the stick mags are removable, and in this case, I think both Thompsons can use either one, so if you want to put the 30-round stick mag in this one, you can do that as well. I think it's also a really cool detail that the iconic cuts compensator is not on Flattop's gun, where it is here on Dick Tracy's M1928A1. Again, another weapon I talked about a whole bunch on Instagram. This is a slightly modified version of Flattops, just a little bit more refined for mass production as we're getting into the war years. These first started being delivered in the early 1930s, and they do away with the angled foregrip, and I think that's the only major cosmetic change on the AA1. From there, they'll eventually get to the point where they lose the top cocking handle, and they change the rear side aperture, and they delete that awesome cuts compensator, but that's about 10, 12 years down the road from here. Flattop also comes with what I would probably say is a Stoeger or similar style branded 12 gauge side-by-side coach gun. A holdover from the Wild West era, but still, to this day, actually a very devastating weapon, if a little slow on the reload. This one has the buttstock replaced with like a club grip, which is common for concealment, although it's not really a fair trade in my opinion. You lose a lot of control for a little bit of concealment. But the fact that the break action actually works on the gun is kind of a no-brainer, but Mezco always does it, and I always appreciate it. In fact, let's get into like a full-page spread of all the weapons included here. You see Tracy's and Flattop's Thompsons. Tracy also has looks like a Smith & Wesson J-frame, 38 snub nose revolver, kind of like a 38 undercover, as we call them now. And the semi-auto looks like probably a Browning 25 auto would be my guess. You can also see Flattop's 1911 once again, the Switchblade, Dynamite, and actually the manifest says it comes with a crowbar and a blackjack. I'm going to have to look for those because I don't think I saw them in the box. Anyway, as a huge fan of especially wartime weapons and even a little bit of pre-wartime weapons, you can imagine I really enjoy this loadout. Dick Tracy also, as would be expected and encouraged, comes with his two-way radio watch that can go on either wrist, although I believe he's right-handed, so it should go on his left hand. I think that's how that works. I'm left-handed, so I've always been a little confused on that myself. And if he somehow manages to take Flattop alive, he also comes with a pair of handcuffs. These work like you would expect. You just take the hands off of the wrist pegs of the figure, slide the cuffs on, and then put the hands back on. Oh, and I almost forgot, the watch comes with a little buzzing sound effect piece that clips in there. You can see just above his wrist. Like any good detective, Dick Tracy needs his caffeine, so he also comes with a coffee mug. With the trench coat removed, you can see he actually has a three-piece suit with a vest. There's an overcoat that I'll show here just in the next section with the articulation. And that leaves you the ability to put on his shoulder holster, which is a mix of plastic and elastic. You can also see him here with the hairpiece attached. The hat is actually a connector piece. It doesn't go over the hair, so you remove the top of the hair and then put the hat on so it stays more securely. Again, I can show that here, actually. Let's go ahead and get into that right about now. So as I show you the articulation, let me show you that shoulder holster in a little closer detail here. You can see the plastic is on the left side, and it just barely fits that 38, but it does okay. And the elastic goes across the right-hand side. The elastic doesn't want to quite stay on top of the shoulder. If it's something you want to keep on the figure permanently, which is kind of what I'm thinking, I may stitch that to his vest. We'll get around to that later. As far as his body goes, there's a little closer shot of his wristwatch. I think he's the same body as Pruneface. I'm not 100% on that because I haven't taken any of these apart. He feels bigger though. Some of that may be due to his hands and his head, but I think it's the same body size. As such, it's got the same articulation with surprisingly good range for... made him bald. We'll come back to that in a second. The head range is actually pretty good too, with a ball socket, double jointed neck like normal, but even with the suit collar, he gets a pretty good range of expression. There's that piece again, just in case you're wondering. Torso articulation is also the same. It doesn't allow for a whole lot of range. I mean, the guy is wearing a vest. Nice little detail on that belt buckle there. But lower body for a guy in suit pants does really well. You've got a good range out, ball-jointed shoulders, hips, double-jointed knees, and I can no longer speak. There are ball-jointed ankles. Yes, there we go. I'm back on track. But all that actually works pretty well, and like I said, it seems pretty equivalent to what's on Pruneface. Now getting into Flattop, same basic articulation pattern here. Again, it's hard to place. I think maybe he's on the Constantine body rather than the one that Pruneface is on. I'm not 100% on that, but he does feel slimmer. Same kind of deal though. Double jointed elbows, ball jointed shoulders. No butterflies on these guys. I don't think I mentioned that. But Flattop's not wearing quite as much gear, so he's got a little bit more range. His ankles are kind of funky compared to Dick Tracy's, though. Something about, I don't know, it's like it gets stuck on the sock sculpt or something. I'm not 100% on what's causing that. But as I line them up side by side, the height is pretty much comparable. Well, actually, looking at the picture, I think Flattop looks slightly taller. I don't know if that's really true. My point is, it's entirely possible these are the same bodies, but by using a different neck and different hands, Dick Tracy looks more sizable. Suppose the same could be said for him with the Golden Age Batman here, where they are basically the same height, but probably just due to the clothing, Dick Tracy appears thicker. Again, this may also be the same base body. I know I'm usually a little bit more on the ball as far as what they're using, but I haven't taken apart any of these Dick Tracy figures yet, so I have to just give you my best guesses. What I can tell you, though, is as far as relative size and scale, I like the way these two work together. Gives you a sinking suspicion this might have been the intention all along, is to have a Batman and a Robin and a Joker that could go with the Dick Tracy collection, huh? Here's a look at the blue overcoat, which completes the three-piece suit. I am going to mention to you here, though, if you're going to wear their yellow trench coat, leave this jacket off, because the trench coat is designed with enough give not to bother the articulation. So if you just do one or the other, you're in good shape. As you can see, though, the trench coat has a lot of give to it, which is fantastic because this really should be the default look. Just do one or the other if you're going to put the coats on, is what I'm saying. Coming back to the head sculpts and the head gimmick, he comes with 3 heads, 1 hairpiece, and 1 hat. So all you do here, obviously, is take the appropriate head, put it on, put the hairpiece on. There you have his smiling head. Then just pop the hairpiece off, and you can slap his yellow trademark hat on, just like so. The hat stays really well, actually. More so than the hairpiece. I've had no trouble with the hat at all. And then lastly, you can swap these out for his yelling head, which is always, as a third option for an emotive head, a yelling head is never really a bad call for any figure. It does look a little strange on a Dick Tracy, though. I'm not going to lie, it was a little unusual. And maybe he's mad because he's got this fur stuck in his mouth. I can't seem to get this damn thing off. But anyway, that head, of course, works with the hat as well. Maybe it's the squinting eyes that give you this kind of, looks like he stubbed his toe more than he's yelling in the middle of a firefight kind of look. But I think it does look better with the hat on. I think for most people, though, me especially, the smile or the frown, like the default head, is probably the one I'm going to stick with, because that just looks good. Not to be left out, Flattop also comes with 2 more head options. You have this one with the gritted teeth showing and kind of a scratch on his cheek. Then he has one with a more raised eyebrow, what do the kids say now? The demure look, right? And then the last one has just a more straight brow and the same kind of kissy face, puckered lips. But I think they did a great job on all these. They look just like the artwork. It's kind of wild. He also comes with this really nice green overcoat with a nice fur liner on it. And just the quality and the weight of the fabric on this is really great. It actually doesn't hinder articulation as much as you might think. It just kind of makes him baggier, which is not a bad look. I suspect, though, if you wanted to have better range with this coat on, you'd do the same thing as you do with Dick Tracy and just take that purple jacket off underneath. But as it is, I think it gets decent range. And again, it seems like a very fitting look for that Chicago winter mobster look, right? I think it pulls it off really well. Like I was saying earlier, it's kind of hard not to think this was an intentional grouping by Mezco's part, where you can have Pruneface, Flattop teaming up with Two-Face, and they all look like not only do they follow the same era, but they probably were in the same comic book together, which, now that I think about it, is a crossover to my knowledge that has not occurred. You can see with the 3 of them side by side, though, there is definitely a change in the base bodies, where Two-Face uses that older Star Trek Punisher-style single elbow body. Pruneface and Flattop are both considerably a little taller, but broader and more filled out than he is. And you can see that a little more with all 5 figures standing together here, my late 1930s, 1940s noir comic strip collection. And this is really not a bad group shot as it is, but I think from what I've seen, in the next 6 months, we're damn near going to double that group. And then, of course, here is Dick Tracy and Flattop with Supreme Knight Batman. I bring this one out because, A, this is what I always compare to, and B, on the off chance that you're not a big Dick Tracy fan and this isn't really your cup of tea, these are really nicely articulated suit bodies that you could use in almost any time frame with a head swap and a couple weapon swaps. In fact, I would be remiss if I didn't mention I would not turn down some 1990 Warren Beatty style heads for these guys just as options to mix with different figures in different photo shoots. So honestly, I think it's still just kind of wild that I've got this 2-pack in my hands right now with more figures on the way, because I still kind of can't believe we have a Dick Tracy collection at this kind of format, at this kind of quality. The last time we got a Dick Tracy figure was from Shocker Toys some years back, and I think you all know how that went. So I can only imagine if you're a hardcore Dick Tracy fan and you've been waiting on this for half a century, this must be amazing. Even for a filthy casual like me, this is outstanding. So if you are even slightly interested in Dick Tracy or the time period or comic strip characters in general, you should absolutely try to pick up this 2-pack and do what you got to do to get your hands on it, especially because it's going to clearly be a fairly substantial collection by the time it's all said and done. So thank you to Mezco Toys for helping me be a part of that, and thank you to you guys for coming through to watch the review. Hopefully you were able to secure one of your own or you're working on it. I wish you well either way, and I will see you again shortly for the next review.